What's going on, guys? In today's video, we're going to talk about the tax-free savings account. And by the end of the video, you'll have a great understanding of exactly how this account works, what the benefits are, and it'll be simple to understand, so follow along. And if you like this video and you want to learn about more topics, please leave a comment and I would love to hear what topic you'd like to learn next. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So a little bit of history on this account. It is a Canadian account only. And so only Canadians can get access to a TFSA. And it was started in 2009. So it actually isn't that old. Prior to 2009, there was the RRSP. Now the RRSP is still in Canada and I'm going to make a separate video about it, but we're going to focus on the TFSA only for today's video. Now, despite it being called a tax-free savings account, it's a bit of a silly name because the TFSA is really more of an investment account. Now, it doesn't mean you can't save money into it. It just means that it's better suited for investments that will actually earn growth on our money rather than just collecting money as a bank account or a savings account. Now, the TFSA can hold a variety of different types of investments, not just stocks and bonds, but also baskets of stocks and bonds such as ETFs or exchange traded funds, mutual funds, REITs or real estate investment trusts, REIT for short, which are becoming a lot more popular these days, and segregated funds. So there's a variety of different types of investments that can be held within a TFSA account. Now, the growth that is earned year by year on these investments, including dividends or any capital gains or any interest that's accumulated on those investments, are all tax-free to you as it grows. As long as the investment's held within the TFSA, it's tax-free growth on any and all types of investment earnings within the TFSA account. So here's where it gets a little bit confusing. The TFSA is not actually an investment at all. The TFSA is just simply the account. So what that looks like is, think of the TFSA as a bucket. Imagine you have a bucket and inside of the bucket, you can pour rice into it to keep the rice inside. Now the rice, the bits of rice are like shares of your different investment products. So this could be shares of stocks, it could be shares of mutual funds or other types that I mentioned, but the actual pieces of rice in the bucket are the shares that you accumulate. So of course, you're always gonna have however many shares you've purchased, but the value of those shares could go up, it could go down, just like the value of anything else like gold or other commodities could go up or could go down at any given time. And the bottom line is that the TFSA will never charge you tax on the growth that you earn. So for example, if you have a bucket with rice inside of it and that rice is suddenly worth twice as much next year, and then you sell that bucket to someone else, you're not going to get taxed on that growth because the bucket was protecting you from it. So think of the TFSA as like a protective bucket for your investments. Now, TFSAs do have contribution limits, which means that there's only a limited amount of money you can contribute at any given time into your TFSA or into a variety of TFSAs held at different institutions. So you could have more than one TFSA, but the overall amount you can put in between all of those TFSAs is set by the government, by the CRA, and that's dependent person to person. So I'm going to explain how exactly the contribution limit works, but just know that you can have as many TFSAs open as possible. It's just all about your overall contribution limit when it comes to how much you can actually put in. Now, the TFSA limit is determined based on the year that you turned 18 and had a valid SIN number. Each year you get a contribution limit for whatever the fixed amount was for that particular year. So if we go back to 2009, which if you remember was the first year that the TFSA was introduced, that year the contribution limit was $5,000. And if you look at this chart, each and every year there was a new contribution limit by the CRA that was given. And the current year, we're in 2025 now, is actually $7,000. Now, you might wonder, does this mean that each of those years, that's the maximum that I can put into my TFSA? Not necessarily. You see, whatever years you were eligible for previously will carry forward to the current year. So as an example, let's say you were only eligible for the TFSA last year and this year. Well, in 2024, the contribution limit was $7,000, and in 2025, the limit is $7,000. So together, that makes $14,000. Now, let's say that you decided not to put any money in this year at all. As soon as we get to January 1st, there will be a new limit set by the CRA. We don't know what it is yet, but let's say it's still $7,000. You would then be able to put up to $21,000 in, because each year that you're eligible will carry forward. Now, when you add money to the TFSA, of course it will reduce your limit, but if you take money out of the TFSA later, then it will actually add to your contribution limit. However, there's a kicker. You need to be very careful, because I'll give an example of a $20,000 TFSA limit. Let's say my limit right now is $20,000. I can go ahead and add up to $20,000 to my TFSA without over-contributing. But let's say that the very next week, after I add the $20,000, I decide to take $20,000 out. The question is, am I now able to put $20,000 back in the week after? And the answer is no. The reason why is because if you do withdraw from your TFSA, the eligible limit will not readjust until the following year. So you have to be very careful, because if you do that, you could end up over-contributing. Now, the penalty for over-contribution is actually 1% per month. So just as an example, if I put $7,000 more than I was allowed to right now into my TFSA, I would actually get penalized and charged a 1% penalty every single month until the very end of the year. So if you think you might have over-contributed to your TFSA, speak to your advisor and make sure you get that money out of there as soon as possible to avoid paying that over-contribution fee. Now, you can withdraw from a TFSA at any time, and it's completely tax-free to do so. So as an example, let's say my limit for my TFSA was $50,000. I decide I'm gonna fill it up this year. I'm gonna throw $50,000 in. I'm lucky enough that I can do that. Boom, I put the money in my TFSA. Now my limit is at zero. Now let's just say that over the next 5 years, my $50,000 that I deposited, it grows within the investment to $100,000. Wow, so I've doubled my money now. It's now worth $100,000. If I take out that entire $100,000 all at once, it's completely tax-free. So this is the beautiful thing about the TFSA, because in theory, if I have money in there long-term, I might only have contributed 10, 15, 20%, or even less of the total amount, including all the growth that I will eventually take out down the road in retirement. Now, one of the biggest mistakes you could make with the TFSA is actually investing in a high-risk asset like a stock or something that could go down a lot or even go to zero. Because what happens is, if you bought into an investment like a stock and the value went down significantly, let's say it went down 50%, you bought in with 10,000, you went down to 50%, now you're at 5,000. If you take money out of your TFSA now, you're only going to increase your limit by 5,000, and that extra 5,000 is gone forever. You'll never get that contribution limit back. So make sure if you're going to invest in your TFSA, it's not into something that could ever go to zero, and you're really investing for the long run, and you're not taking out losses, because that's a sure way to lose a lot of your contribution limit along the way. This video is part of a series that I'm going to be doing on different registered and non-registered accounts, such as the TFSA, the RSP, the non-registered, the RESP, the RDSP. So stay tuned, because there's a ton of great value that's coming. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more good videos, and please leave a comment on your feedback and what you'd like to hear next. I would love to hear from you. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.